Hello and welcome to Becoming Enchanted, a podcast all about ways to bring enchantment and healing into your life. I am your host, Stacey Lee. Join me and my co-host, Andy Andrews, as we journey into the hearts and minds and discuss topics related to spirituality, the supernatural, esoteric knowledge, mysticism, psychology, and so much more. Thank you for tuning in.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Tonight, we have a very special guest, very good friend of mine and Andy's, and she is just an amazing person. I met her and just felt her energy, and it was, I can't even explain it. And what she has talked about tonight is like a huge interest of mine, so I'm super excited. I'm going to be asking her lots of questions. But without further ado, this is Evie Ford. Evie, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure thing. I am a practicing eclectic pagan. I have been for the better part of 25 years. I was raised Methodist, and then I moved on to other things. Now I am a paranormal investigator. I have a degree in oral history and folklore from Texas A&M University. And basically that came about when my parents asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I told them I wanted to be a Ghostbuster, and they told me I needed to reconsider my career choices and maybe think about what college had to offer them. Much to their chagrin, they didn't realize that you could go study ghosts and the paranormal and folklore and Bigfoot and monsters and all those kind of good things in college. They just call it folklore. And I did get a degree in that, and now I am here. So that's a little bit about myself. Oh, I'm also an artist. I run Not Real People Studios, and that has a fun story too, but I can tell you all that later.
Yes, you are actually an amazing artist. I love your artwork. I know there was a picture that I wanted, a painting that I wanted, and I didn't jump on it quick enough. That was my fault. So
I'm never that.
Oh, wait. Jay says, haha, I'm wearing my vampire shirt too. So I don't know, Jay. I'm assuming you do. So
yes, I
do. That's pretty cool.
What's up?
Hi, Kyle. Nice to see you. So tonight, I mean, we're going to talk about lots of things. We can talk about anything. We never have any type of like set thing we're going to talk about, but you have a lot of like information about voodoo. You lived in NOLA, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us, like, how did you from NOLA? Did you live down there or like move down there?
Here for about 20 years. And, we lived originally in the Marigny, which is right there next to the French Quarter. And, we lived, thank you guys.
You're very welcome.
Sorry, we had people in the store for just a minute. I moved down there in 2008, I believe. Don't get me lying, it was a long time ago. And we moved up here in 2021. So my knowledge of voodoo is literally what I have learned from living there. I wouldn't call myself an expert at all, but I do have a passing knowledge of it, and it does kind of absorb into your skin when you're living in some place like New Orleans.
So, yeah, it's very prevalent down there. It's like embedded in the culture.
Yes, it is.
It is. So let's start with the first question, because everybody has heard the term voodoo, mm-hmm. but not everybody. There's a lot of Hollywood that goes along with it. You know, we've all seen the little dolls and stuff like that. So in your words, what would you say? What is voodoo?
Voodoo is a religion, just like Christianity or even Wicca or something along those lines. Most people that practice it are practicing a form of folk religion. It's what happened when slavery came to the coastal areas of the United States and the Caribbean. Now, a lot of the slaves, they didn't pick just anybody. They brought people into slavery from all walks of life. And when they came over here, they started trying to remember their native religions, and they kind of had to piece it together. They didn't have, like, priests weren't among the people that they normally enslaved. So they came through, they pieced it together, and it got melded into Catholicism specifically. And when you talk about voodoo, voodoo is, you're really talking about the South Central United States, because you would call it hoodoo in Haiti.
Yes.
And hoodoo means something entirely different in the
I was
United
going to ask the difference because, I hear that you hear the hoodoo and you hear the voodoo. So, yeah.
And in the United States, the difference between hoodoo and voodoo is an organized religion. Hoodoo is folk magic.
Okay.
So it's like, and I would say if the amount of practicing that I did when I was in New Orleans qualified more into hoodoo than it did voodoo, because I was not a practicing follower of voodoo. And so over about 250 years, Catholicism and West African religion melded into one being, and the saints started representing the Loa and the Getty and vice versa. And they actually practice to this day. There are voodoo temples in New Orleans and places that you can go practice. And it's not just there, it's in little pockets all along the swamp lines in southern Louisiana and southern Mississippi.
Yeah, that is so cool. So it originated in Africa, is what I'm hearing.
Yes,
Is that?
well, yes, it is. It is based off of West African religion mixed in with Catholicism.
Okay, but is it not called voodoo over there?
No, it's not.
Okay, so when it came here and mixed us in, then it became this. Okay, that makes sense to me. Yeah, it's fascinating because as a Roman Catholic, grown up as a Roman Catholic, and then you hear, like, I never knew it was so intertwined, like in the two of those two. Andy, do you have any questions for her? If anybody has any questions, sorry, I asked you and then I told you to shut up. Sorry.
My question is, I guess, about the things like seeing a voodoo doll.
Okay.
And, every, paganism has a light side, I guess you could say, and a dark side.
Sure.
And I guess maybe I'm asking, does voodoo, when you see stuff like that, where does that come from? And is that considered a good practice or bad practice, or?
This is that's a great question, because are you ready for a long answer? Because
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Because this goes into a lot of how this was, voodoo dolls go into how all of this was founded. One of the things people don't realize or don't think about is that West Africa is on the same geographic lines as the southern Gulf Coast. And so a lot of the same plants are very similar. So you have everybody coming from Europe, and they come down here. They don't know what they're looking at. It doesn't look at it like anything as far as medicinal herbs go that like they've ever seen before. But the slaves are coming over from West Africa, and they're like, oh, okay, I recognize this. This will fix fever. This will fix an upset stomach. And rather than admit that the slaves knew more than the colonizers did, they actually attributed it to voodoo magic.
Okay.
And a lot of voodoo practitioners were local healers, doctors, because they understood the plant life that was in the area. And they would come around, and even the white folks, the black folks, everybody went to the voodoo practitioners in southern Louisiana during the time of colonization and when Louisiana was being settled. And they would come in, and one of the things they did was they had a form of sympathetic magic. And the idea is you would go to this voodoo practitioner and you were trying to get healing. Let's just say that your back is hurting, right? And you would come in, let's say you would get a massage and they would apply an ointment on you, and you feel better. But it starts hurting you at 3 a.m. all of the freaking time. And you don't want to come in. The voodoo practitioner doesn't want you coming in to their house at 3 a.m. So instead, you would make a representation of yourself, otherwise known as a voodoo doll. And you would make it, you put in your hair, your fingernail clippings, some form of essence of you, and you would hand it over to the voodoo practitioner. And they would go in and said, basically using modern ideas, they would set an alarm, and at 3 a.m. they'd roll over and massage the back of this voodoo doll in the example that I'm giving. And in that way, continue through sympathetic magic, kind of like Reiki. They would continue to administer the medicine to you even after time had passed. So its origins are not.
That's cool. I never thought
that they're not. Hollywood makes it, stabbing in the eyes, and you get people. The crazy thing is, though, is sympathetic magic can work like that. Magic.
Oh, I bet.
One of
Yeah.
the things that people talk about all the time is that magic doesn't have feelings. Magic doesn't care about right or wrong. It's energy, and it's how the practitioner is directing it that matters. So if you're doing sympathetic magic on this voodoo doll to heal, then that's definitely going to fall into positive directions, and that is what it was originally intended for. But that doesn't mean that people haven't, and it's not possible to use that in such a way that it's definitely a negative thing. And the whole poking pins in people, I give them a serious side stitch or something along those lines. But if you really have to trust somebody to give them pieces of your hair and your fingernail clippings. So.
Yeah, it's very similar to witchcraft. Like it seems like, because there's poppets, witchcraft has poppets. It is where you make them and you would do the healing on the poppet. And like you mentioned, Reiki too. Reiki's the same way. Like I send distance Reiki to people all the time. And it's that sympathetic magic, you know. Sometimes I don't use a doll that's specifically for them, but I use like an image of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I was just like, we have dolls that we actually use in our practices, and that is one of the things, and it's specifically for healing. And as Susan Skills said, it's all about intention. It absolutely is.
Exactly.
So there could be bad intentions when it comes to like voodoo.
That's one thing to practice, you know. I mean, with anything out there, intent. I'm the same way. I mean, to get not too far off the subject, but just like when we go in to cleanse a house, or we go in, or even just going in to investigate, you know, it's all about the intention of, you know, are we going to go in here and provoke something? Are we going to go in here and actually, you know, try to throw out some positive energy? And that goes with everything from practicing whatever that you know, whatever your faith is or your practice is. And it's the same with Christianity. You know, you have people out there that, you know, not to get too deep on the subject, but just like, you know, we had talked about the church that I had attended, unfortunately, yesterday, that they're selling the property that it's on. And I mean, it was a big deal for us. But the thing was, they had merged with someone that had an intention on it being like, you know, a money grab. And now you see what's happening with it, you know. But,
and there's even like warriors in the name of God that are abusing people.
Absolutely.
Because of their beliefs or some aspect of themselves that they believe that is a sin. Yeah.
You know, just like Jay's saying, you know, Hollywood has a knack of completely distorting voodoo, but they completely distort a lot of things, you know.
They do.
You know, with my background with working with an exorcist and, you know, stuff like that, you know, it's nothing even close to what they say it is. And, you know, sadly, too many people follow Hollywood for, you know, like it's, figuratively speaking, the Bible, you know, like voodoo, the first thing that,
there's a lot of,
you know, the first thing that people look at when it comes to voodoo. I mean, I bet you that 90% of the people that came on here would probably say the first thing you would say voodoo, they would say doll. You know what I'm saying?
So let's do that. For those of you watching, please comment. When we say the word voodoo, what is the first thing that comes to mind when we say voodoo? We probably should have done that to begin with. But
well, the thing is, I see that a lot of these people, like Jay knows about it. Susan, obviously.
Susan, yeah, she's from NOLA.
And
so
most people,
it doesn't just stay in NOLA. Like, I know that's like, seems like the origin of it.
Yes, it is anywhere there were West African slaves and a majority Catholic population. And it really blended together. And I know, don't get me lying. Is it Gullah Gullah in South Carolina? I don't remember. Don't get me lying on that one. If I got it wrong, I'm so sorry. So, then you end up with voodoo and hoodoo and voodoo, and they call it a lot of different things, but really what it is West African folk magic.
Okay, that makes sense. And folk magic in general. And I think it's like, so where I'm from, I practice more of an Appalachian. I'm an Appalachian witch, so to speak, although I have Catholicism in my background. So it is very blended for me. And there's a lot of similar tenets. So I wonder if some of that Appalachian magic isn't derived from some voodoo, and how closely intertwined it is.
It's entirely possible.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know a lot about Appalachian magic. I've been learning as I've been up here. I've been piecing together and starting to look into it. And the folklore is one of the wonderful things of moving to a new area. But it does seem very similar to the hoodoo that I'm used to, minus the Loa and the Getty, which I am fond of as well. So that's something that spoke to me when I was down there.
So I have a question about zombies.
Sure.
I don't know if you know where I'm going.
No, I don't know where you're going because there's multiple avenues.
So I have heard, and I don't know if this is the truth, but I have heard or read somewhere that zombies actually originate from hoodoo magic because they would use dead bodies to invoke spirits, and they would save the dead body so the spirit could go into it, and then it would walk like the dead would walk. What do you know about that? Is there any truth in that?
I don't know about that. There is Haitian folklore about voodoo practitioners being able to reanimate corpses. There is rumors and folklore about Haitian voodoo that they actually brought people to the brink of death and then brought them back, and then told the people that they had actually died when they came back to life. Okay. They had to be under the command of the voodoo practitioner that had put them under. Whether or not, I have never looked in to see whether or not these things are true.
I actually studied that one time.
Okay.
So what it is they have a couple different ways, but the common practice was that they would go in and they would drink this herb made, product that would.
I know what herb that is.
Literally slow their heart rate down. Mm-hmm. It would slow everything down to where they was almost in a zombie-like state, like death. And they even were burying people for like 2 days because with their with what this medicine did was slow them down so much they didn't even need the oxygen level, you know what I'm saying, or as much oxygen, and then they would pull them back up, and they would give them something else that would wake them up, pretty much is what it was. But they would lie is what they were doing and saying, but then there was a couple African tribes that actually did that, and that was a rite of passage for them. Like they would actually be put down into this hole under this trance, and it was almost like going into a sweat tent. They would go down into this hole, and that's where they supposedly would meet while they were under this influence, whatever herb. But that was a smoking herb that they had along with the drink. And
the drink is probably deadly nightshade. It's nightshade. They use that for many, many years. It still grows wild. Like you can still get it now. You can kill someone with it
just
in the right amounts.
The things that know in life.
Yeah. Well, it's called. Some people call it the moonflower. Some people you can actually. It's illegal to grow, but it does grow wild.
I was going to say my little plant app has identified deadly nightshade on the side of the road before. So.
Right. Yes, it is on the side of the road. I'm not going to identify it because no one is going to go use it on anybody. They used to use it back in Elizabethan times to help with pain and put people to sleep so they could, do surgeries and stuff like that. So yeah, there's a lot of, and most likely is one of the nightshades that they probably used. Yeah, and that's my herbalism that comes in.
Yeah, one of the one of the telltale signs was when they would come out of this trance or whatever they were in after they'd gotten at their mouth would turn white, their lips would turn white.
Okay.
And that kind of played into the same zombie feeling of it, because they would look like they didn't have any, red lips, and, and to the point that it actually, their pupils would dilate so much. They were, I watched it on National Geographic, I think, that a couple people actually never came back from it, like as in their eyesight. And so that, they almost went blind or were pretty much blind, but it would make a film like over their eyes and everything like that, whatever this stuff was. And then they would have a paste that they would put on them, and that was supposedly what was bringing them back, stuff like that. But I can't remember what it was called, but it was very similar to us using vapor rub, like something like that. Like they would slap this stuff on people, and it would.
So it's probably like, the smelling salts, like
speed up circulation is what it would do.
Yeah.
They would drink this other stuff, or they would, however they would give it to them. The way they would do it is pour it right down their throat while they were laying there on the ground. And then they would all grab them and stand them up. And then the priest or whatever would do his thing, well, the thing is they're standing them up so they digest it, you know what I'm saying? And then they have this other stuff on them. And, but there was actually what the whole show was about. And then I looked into it deeper, was the people that actually never came back. Like, they literally, was this considered murder, or was this considered a religious practice that, because the way they looked at it, if you didn't come back from it, then you weren't meant to go to that next rite of passage. Like,
that sounds, and that's very similar to some Native American lore with stuff and the journeys that happen.
Yes.
Yeah. That's interesting. And it's so funny how a lot of things are all tied together.
Oh yeah.
I know we've had many conversations about that, Andy, about how there's certain things that are tied together, like just different areas of the globe.
Mm-hmm.
It does seem like there is a connection, almost primordial connection in some things.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about indigenous religion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, do you know how long voodoo's been around?
Well, that's a good question.
Well, honestly, as long as the Americas have been around. So
it was probably even before that. So,
well, it was actually West African native religion before that. So it didn't act, voodoo in its incarnations didn't exist before slavery brought those West Africans into the Caribbean and the Southern United States. So it had to meld with Catholicism before it became a distinct religion of its own. So what, 400 years?
Yes, it's been a long time.
Yes, it has.
Long time. So when you talk about how it melds with Catholicism, can you go more into that?
Okay.
Do they believe that there's a God? Do they believe in the saints, like Mother Mary, all that stuff?
Yes, but they believe the saints correspond to their traditional Loa and Gedi. And the Loa and Gedi are basically ancestral spirits from West African religion. And they have names, and think of them as archetypes is the best way to look at them. And they look at people in voodoo, look at the saints as archetypes in the same kind of way. So there's one-to-one correspondences with the Loa and the Gedi and the saints in Catholicism. So they will put up saints candles when they're putting up their altars to do rituals and communications and things like that. And they might say, I'm talking to Saint Peter. And then in the same breath, use the Loa that corresponds to Saint Peter and interchange them as if they are the same thing. So one of the reasons they think this happened, and this is me kind of applying folklore knowledge to what I've witnessed. One of the things that happened is they were persecuted for practicing West African religion. No, they were going to convert to Catholicism. This wasn't a choice. It was a forced conversion. And when they saw there was one-to-one correspondences, because from what I have been told, there is a great God, a one God over all of the saints, all of the Loa and the Gedi. So there's an all-powerful God, and then you have your intermediaries, and they even have beliefs in heaven and in the idea of purgatory.
Okay.
Actually transcends both of the Voodoo religion and Catholicism, and they would practice their faith as they remembered it and use Catholicism as a cover for it. So if you have all your saints sitting up on your altar, nobody's looking at you because you're practicing Catholicism versus they don't know that you have assigned this to be one of the Loa.
Right.
Similar to the Celtic cross, which is in the shape of a circle, because a lot of the pagans over there, the Druids, they would worship the sun. So they put that in there so they kind of they converted it to let them kind of worship the same.
Right.
Yeah.
And that goes back to that connection. Like there is a lot of that, like what you're saying, like connection between the saints and like different gods and goddesses in other religions.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the purgatory thing is probably one of my favorite.
I was getting ready to ask you about that.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite topics.
I think it is. It's awesome.
I real quick, I don't want to stop you because this guy Jay he said they also believe left-handed individuals were evil. Left-handed in Latin meant to be sinister. So my mother was a left-handed person, and she went to Catholic school. And my mom has now passed away. I think she'd be. I can't do math, but she passed away in her 60s. So, and that was 11 years ago. So she would get beaten by the nuns on her left hand to the point she couldn't use it, and made her use her right hand.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Jay said he did too. So
yeah, they really did do that. They really did believe that that it was some form of demonic possession. That if you were left-handed, basically.
Yeah.
No, the purgatory.
Anyway, sorry, I interrupted you. Go ahead. Purgatory.
There is a bit of folklore from New Orleans specifically that says that the gates of Guinea, the 7 gates of Guinea, are actually located in New Orleans proper. Mm-hmm. They're physical locations, and Guinea is equivalent to purgatory. It's the land you have to cross to get to be with your ancestors and with God. And you have to have the right frame of mind. You have to have basically, to use Catholic terms, confessed all your sins and made right with God so that you can cross through Guinea to get to the other side. And at each one of the gates, it's guarded by one of the Gedi, which are basically the barons, the high priests of Voodoo. And you go up to, and the 7 days after death, you pass through each gate, and the barons will meet you, and then they question you, and if you can pass their test, you go on to the next gate until you get to the 7th gate. And in the 7th gate, you get there, and Baron Samadi is there to meet you, and if you are ready, he will guide you through Guinea to your ancestors.
Oh, wow.
Which leads into...
If not,
you get stuck in the earthly realm, and you become
purgatory.
And you get stuck in purgatory, or you become.
Why am I envisioning never-ending story?
Well, it's kind of like that.
Going through the gates, only a true soul can pass.
First gate. They say that the first gate is located at Marie Laveau's tomb in number 1. They say the 7th gate is located in a rundown old cemetery called Holt Cemetery that's in New Orleans.
Okay.
And there's a bridge that's supposed to be gate 4, and there's all different kinds of legends about where these gates are located. And the legends say that if you're there at the wrong time, when the barons are there, that you can get sucked into purgatory yourself. And that's one of the reasons people just disappear in New Orleans.
Oh. So it's not the vampires.
Well, no, they say it's the vampires too.
I have a huge fan of vampire stories. Like, love vampires. Like, it's...
Do you know New Orleans vampire stories?
And I know I read Ella Ann Rice's books. Let me say that. And she's from New Orleans. And
New
like
Orleans,
that,
hers are original.
yeah,
She's not using the folklore from town. The
yeah,
folklore in town are not the sexy vampires. It is not Louis and Lestat. It is not the vampires that you want to be and you want to meet that are rock stars. No, this is
yeah,
the legends from New Orleans. They're shark teeth monsters
yeah.
that lurk in the shadows and look like little girls.
Really?
Yes,
Nice.
yes,
Kind of like sirens,
yes.
pirates. Like, yeah.
They'll rip your throat out and then suck you dry of blood. They're
No, the
really,
vampires are savage.
they are
So they
monsters.
don't look like Brad Pitt, Susan. At least Brad Pitt 20 years ago, not Brad Pitt now.
No, the vampires are savage. Yes, they
Oh,
are.
wow. Yes, and that's another thing Hollywood kind of like, you know, there's a lot of lore of around vampires in many different cultures.
Yes,
But it seems like New Orleans is kind of the home of it. But
at least,
yeah, around closest to us.
yeah.
But there's a lot of lore around that, and I like that's a whole nother folklore to talk about. Maybe that's another show. I don't know. Do you know anything about vampires? I know we're going to go totally off the subject here, but
Oh, we're going to move way off the subject. Do I know anything about vampires? Yes, I know a little bit. I'm going to answer Jason's
okay.
question right now. Marie Laveau died in the 1880s. If she's not the first gate, how old is this religion? No more than 400 years old. And St. Louis number 1 is the first cemetery in New Orleans, and hers is right at the front gate. So it's actually, legends are legends. My personal belief is that Marie Laveau got the first gate as an honor after she died. However, I do believe the first gate probably is in St. Louis number 1 that dates back to the founding of the city, which is in 1699.
Okay.
And the religion isn't much older than that.
Okay. So I'm assuming, Susan, you have a lot of information on vampires. Maybe we need to have you on the show and we can talk vampires.
Okay.
But
Vampires.
yes, go ahead.
What do you want to know? We used to talk about this on our tours in New Orleans.
Oh, cool.
3 different kinds of vampires that my personal belief.
Okay.
There are living vampires, there are fictional vampires, and there are esoteric vampires.
Okay.
Now, fictional vampires are almost everything you know about, and include the folklore and things like the Ursuline convent, and the vampires in New Orleans fall into the folklore category. But there are also living vampires. People believe that they are vampires today. And those break into people who believe they are psychic vampires and people who believe that they need blood to survive, otherwise known as sanguine vampires. Okay. And then you have esoteric vampires, which are vampires who collect energy or use blood in their rituals.
Okay. And Jay, I do a vampire ball every year. It's called the Undead of Winter. Have you ever been to that one?
I definitely know a couple energy vampires. Like you could actually see, like they're not really vampire, Walking Dead or anything like that. But I think that also we call energy vampires. Our description is somebody who's carrying so much negativity.
Yes, in Milton. Sorry.
They pull your energy and pull you down to be negative with them. Like if they're miserable and then you're around them for a little while, like you end up miserable. And that's just what we call them.
Is that the esoteric vampires you're talking about?
No, that would be in the living vampire category of psychic vampires. Now,
because the person I'm referencing was a psychic, Are you
talking about me?
No, but
I'm going to suck all your blood.
Psychic vampires, what I'm talking about is energy vampires. They're people who suck energy from. Now, they say that you can suck energy from anything, and that kind of goes into some basic pagan and Wiccan principles that you're drawing in energy from nature to use to manifest your intent and spells. So a living vampire who is an energy vampire would say that they can draw in energy from people. Now, then you wonder, and then you have to get into the ethics of okay, so you're drawing energy off of people. Is this ethical? Do people know that you're doing it? Is this hurting somebody? In which case, what you're talking about is actually hurting somebody.
Right.
And would they give you their consent to basically consume their energy if they knew what you were doing? And so you get into lots of questions about it. And there's actually in the vampire communities tons of debate on the ethical nature of psychic vampire feeding. So, I mean, I could go into that, or if you have questions.
I'm just like,
This is actually a good point.
I fed a lot much energy.
Okay.
So is he saying he got a lot of, like, he was
Yes. See, one of the things,
energy. Well, I do that too. Like, Ian and I were just having a conversation today. When I'm in a social crowd, it just draws me in, and I feel like I get energy from it. And would that be kind of like what we're talking about? Like, I don't feel like I'm sucking energy from people, though, and that makes me feel bad. Like,
no, because this is one of the ethical ways of feeding.
okay.
Because now I can go into lots of reasons people believe this, but the bottom line is what you're talking about is ambient feeding.
Okay.
And basically, and what Jay is talking about is ambient feeding. Like when you go to a concert or you perform or you do any type of performance art, people throw energy at you.
Yeah.
There is energy in the air. They are literally throwing
like
off.
Even what we're doing right now.
Yeah, exactly.
The more comments, the more people are commenting, the more energy we're getting. Like, okay.
Yes.
All right.
And it's so you have and you feed off of that ambient energy, and it gives you energy and it gives you life.
Okay.
And makes for whatever your needs are, makes your life better. And so that is one of the considered one of the ethical ways of vampire feeding is going to concerts, going to big social events, being a performer. So because people literally throw their energy at you.
They do. Like it's and I think a lot of times, like, that's why performers like to perform, because it is a feeding of sorts. It feeds something in them. It fulfills something in them.
Absolutely.
Oh, that makes sense. That's really cool.
Yeah. So it's one of those, I'm not as versed on the folklore of vampires. I know lots about New Orleans. I know some interesting things about Tennessee. There's a Civil War story that has a vampire in it. And Tennessee, and it's from one of the wars. They had apparently a green-eyed phantom that would suck the life out of the wounded soldiers, and they would see him coming and he would die. And this has been a ghost story / vampire story that's been around since the Civil War. So there's some interesting pieces of folklore about vampires out there, even inside the United States, in places you wouldn't think of.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty neat. So we got totally off the subject of voodoo.
Yes, we did.
We did. But I had to go there. You're wearing the vampire shirt, New Orleans, like it just was like it just naturally fit.
It's for Crescent. You can't see it here. Hold on.
Okay.
This is for Crescent Halo, which is New Orleans.
Okay. That's pretty cool. So voodoo, back to voodoo, like, what is your experience? Like, if you have some stories for us, do you have things that, like, tell us some stories?
So one of the things that people in voodoo believe is that Papa Legba is basically your intermediary between you and the rest of the Loa and the Gede. So it's basically is your baseline spirit. You have to, if you want to contact anybody else, you have to go through Papa Legba. Now, Papa Legba is supposed to be this old man. He walks with a hobble. He has a cane. He's normally wearing a straw hat. He looks just like everybody else. And you can find him at crossroads. You can find him at gates.
Remind me, I want to talk about the crossroads thing, but go ahead.
You can find him at gates, doorways, things of that nature. He loves candy and coins. So you go up and you'll offer candy at a gateway in New Orleans. If you're ever down there and you see a pile of coins or a handful of candy tossed in front of the gate, somebody has walked up and has summoned Papa Legba to ask for help from something else. Okay. And so this was a common practice. If we wanted something, you went to the voodoo deities there in New Orleans. And it was common. It is interwoven in the culture. It is something that people do. we would actually walk up with, I had kept peppermints. I hate peppermints. But I kept peppermints so that I could offer them to Papa Legba. And one day, me and my friend Moira, we were at Jackson Square, and we had walked by asking for good tours. And we went in, we offered our candy at the gates there in Jackson Square, and then we went on to walk. The very first crossroads we came to, there was an old man in a white suit with a straw hat and a limp with a cane, looked at us dead in the eye and said, "Morning, ladies." And we were just like, "Are you seeing
Oh my goodness. I'd have been like,
this?" And that's not the only time that I have seen something that I think was one of the Loa or the Getty.
mm-hmm.
The time, my friends and I argued whether we were running into Baron Samedi or we ran into a spirit in the vampire community we called Fred. So, but because they have very similar attributes. Mm-hmm. But I was sitting at the corner one night waiting for my tours to start, and it was really busy. There were tons of people. There were just crowds of people going by. And I was sitting at a table outside the bar where we met. And all of a sudden, this gentleman came up to me. He had on gold rimmed glasses. He had on a steampunk hat. He had on a black suit. He was like all blinged out 6 ways to Sunday. And he leaned into me and looked and said, "I'm really interested that you guys are setting up a vampire community here in New Orleans. I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys have to offer." And I'm like, "Hey, do I know you?" And he laughed. And he said, "Of course you know me." And he tipped his hat at me, walked into the center of the street, and disappeared.
Oh, that's so weird. That is really cool.
So those are two of the experiences that I have had that I really think where I was dealing with something directly related to voodoo in New Orleans.
Now, hi, Dave. So obviously, like someone who would come outside of the area and would see one of them people, they might see it as somebody else. Do you feel that, this is going to go really big with this question, but do you feel like because of your thinking and being in the culture, that is what you saw it, but it could have been somebody else? If someone else was there, they would have saw something else. Am I making sense?
Possible. Now, I know that I was there. The time that I think I saw Baron Samedi, I was by myself. I mean, by myself in a crowd of people. But when I saw Papa Legba, I was with somebody who saw the same thing I did. So,
okay.
To be honest with you, I don't know if anybody interacted. I know nobody interacted with either one of them when I saw them. So I don't even know if anybody else saw what we saw. But I think it's entirely possible that it was a manifestation that was just somebody else. Had somebody else been looking, they would have seen something entirely different.
Well, it's just like when we go to, I've had many experiences when investigating where you see, I've had like one instance, I was at St. Albans and 2 of us were seeing something that wasn't very nice. And another person was seeing a woman that was dancing and all this other stuff. So we were looking at the same thing and seeing 2 different things. And, they could be the same way with that too. I mean, I think it's whatever, if they're on the other side or the spirit realm, I think they can show themselves however they want to. And I think sometimes they show themselves to what we are more familiar with. And you were definitely familiar with, both of them. So that's wild. Like somebody who might not have been familiar, like what she's saying, might have seen something or nothing at all. You know?
I guess it's like how it manifests to you is how like it could be different. But I want to talk about the crossroads because big supernatural fan.
Oh yes. Okay.
Is there any like validity in that, like where they went to the crossroads to try to summon the demon that could help them, make a deal, like, or is that very Hollywood?
There's a legend that do you know who Jelly Roll Morton is?
It's yes and no, like on the top of my head.
So Jelly Roll Morton was a famous jazz musician. back in the 20s. And the legend says that his aunt was a voodoo practitioner, and they went to the crossroads and to petition.
Okay. Yeah.
You petition the spirits to give him fame and no worries, to give him fame and fortune. The cost was his life, which after a certain number of years.
Yeah, that was in the episode, right? Yeah.
Yes, and this is a real legend in New Orleans. And God get me lying, I used to know the exact number of years, but I don't remember anymore. It's been too many years since I gave that tour. But he, when the time was up, just like in Supernatural, your soul goes to hell, basically.
Okay.
The spirits get your soul. And it just so happened that the year before his time was up, he started doing breakneck recording speed. Like, he recorded more stuff than he had ever had in his entire life. Like, he was doing it like there was somebody coming for him. And sure enough, when that time came, he did pass away of a massive coronary at exactly the time he was predicted to leave. So is there something to it? There are legends that suggest maybe there are. There's a cost to all magic. There, even in voodoo, there's a cost to all things. You don't do things for free. So maybe it is within the realm of real folklore, which is one of the reasons I absolutely adore Supernatural myself, because they do a fantastic job of taking what is real folklore in the United States and in even the rest of the world, and bringing it to an audience in a fictional way that actually represents the folklore beautifully.
I wondered that, because I see a lot of things like that in there that I can relate with, that I know that do represent very well, but they do use that crossroads a lot, and that's why crossroads. Do you know where that comes from?
Yes, from the voodoo perspective, that's where you meet Papa Legba. And to be able to Papa Legba, come speak to me so that I can speak to whoever it is you're wanting to speak to. So when you're trying to get a hold of, basically, think of it as a switchboard. And when you're trying to get a hold of somebody, you have to go to the telephone. So the crossroads is the switchboard. You're going to the telephone. You pick up the telephone to call wherever it is that you're calling.
Hi, Andy.
Hey, girl. I didn't even look down at the words. How are you?
Good.
Did you have fun at the beach?
Yeah.
Awesome.
This is my daughter. We're talking about voodoo. And that's Hollywood for you. It's exactly that's Hollywood. She's like, nope, don't want anything to do with that.
Or what first comes to mind when she thinks of voodoo?
What is first comes to mind when you think of voodoo?
A voodoo doll.
There you go.
Yeah.
Told you.
Oh, it's Colin.
Yeah. Hi, Colin. Yeah. So Jason, you said you can't find me on Facebook. I don't know if you see in the comments. I don't know if it'll come up. I just put, there's my Facebook link. I don't know if you're able to see that. So. Can I have it back? And this is going to be our episode. Here, I got a mustache.
There you go.
Wait, no, make it curly. Make it curly. Make it.
Okay. Anyway.
Make it curly.
Oh, goodness.
Make it curly.
You guys are going to have to take over. I'm being attacked.
Okay.
Curly.
Well, what other questions do you have, Andy?
Well, I mean, I always found it interesting how you were talking about, how if they don't make it through the 7 gates,
okay,
they're kind of thrown into purgatory. But do they have a second chance?
Yes.
Because I know we had talked about that, but it kind of lost it. But
yes, that's another purpose of voodoo practitioners and voodoo priestess and priestesses, is that if you think, let's say in the 7 days after death, but we've lost Stacey, but that's okay. In the 7 days after death, people in New Orleans expect their loved ones to communicate with them.
Mm-hmm.
They expect them to be there. They're supposed to still be on this plane of existence. But once the 7 days passes, and if they're still there, well, that means they didn't pass through the 7 gates of beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And now you need to go to a practitioner and say, okay, something happened. My loved one got stuck.
Oh, so actually we go on their behalf,
We
or
go
the
on
family, I guess
yes,
you could say.
go on their behalf, and then the voodoo practitioner goes and tries to contact and help them so that they can fix whatever it is they need to fix so they can pass to the next gate. And then you keep doing that until
I know
make it to
that
the
one
center.
time, so if some people don't know, but one of my mentors is Jeremy Leonard, and he does, when he runs into anything, he will get in touch with Bloody Mary. If you know what I'm saying, if it's something that he thinks is voodoo related, he'll call her.
Okay.
But one time he went, so some people, I guess, that were of the voodoo practice had someone pass.
Yes.
And these guys went in and did a ritual to try to contact this person. But it had been like, I believe it was past 7 days. So I wonder if that's what they were trying to do.
Probably.
Because, and I remember like a lot of the EMF or a lot of the REM pods were going off. Other stuff was kind of showing that something was there. And I just remember that she was calling in, I'm not sure, it's been a while, but if she was calling in actually that person or somebody to escort that person in, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But also, they were also trying to, I guess, help them. And that now I understand more. They were trying to help them get through maybe the gates. That's what was going on, I guess. And this person was young, so I don't know what exactly happened to him, but I know that he was part of that. But I just remember they were using bells, maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it was bells, and they were also using obviously whiskey and the chickens and all that stuff and everything. And they were definitely getting something that was coming through. And that was pretty interesting. And I mean, coming with Jeremy being, a Christian, it was really funny to watch him as it was going on. But I mean, we've had some situations also where that we have found things. Well, people down there have found things that were binded and everything else and looked like something voodoo. And I remember she came in, and I've heard mixed feelings about her, so I'll leave it at that. But
I won't speak badly about anybody.
Right. And but they were talking about somebody binding somebody in voodoo. So I guess you can do that just like you can in witchcraft or paganism if you're doing the bad side of things.
You can even do that in Christianity or in like Catholicism, like the binding.
I'm sure. Yeah. Well, we bind things in the name of God.
In the name of God. Yes.
But this was like one of the cases, actually, the Foxes that Stacey, they've come across something found in the backyard. And these people were having all kinds of horrible stuff happening at their home and stuff like that. And, they removed it. And this thing was like waxed shut. Like at first I thought it was, what do they call it? Sorry, my head's not here. Divot box.
Right.
That's what they thought it was at first. But then when they opened it up, it was actually a small doll with a nail right through the chest of it. And Bloody Mary said, yeah, that's definitely voodoo. And she didn't go any much further into it. But
yeah, no, that definitely sounds like voodoo.
And I think it had an upside down cross on it or something. I know it had a cross on it, but it was in a different way. Yeah. And that's what she said. But, there's some things. I mean, what do you think about? I've seen some shows on both YouTube and stuff like that where they'll go and have a voodoo practitioner when they're going in to investigate. They come in and open up these people's senses or call the spirits to come in and communicate. I mean, what is that a good practice, or I mean, do you think they should be doing that? Because it seems like every time they do that, it gets to be ends up not a good thing. Like they end up getting stuff thrown at them or
No,
true, you know, but it just seems like that doing that and trying, you know, to get the Getty or whatever that you're talking about, you know, the ones at the gates like that, I would think that would be what they're trying to conjure up, maybe to
call on them.
to call on them. And it just seems like that they don't want to, like, that's not what they're there for. You know what I mean?
Well, actually, that's true, and it's not true. And some of them, you definitely, I wouldn't recommend calling on them. I don't know that I would want to quote, and this is going to sound awful, but it is what it's called, be ridden by any one of the like Baron Criminal or anything like that.
Right.
I don't know that I'd want that. He's the Baron that's over basically thievery, crime, and murder. And so, you know, it is
Yeah.
after all. And but that's one of the things they do is, and I've been to a couple of voodoo rituals, and one of the things they do is it's an honor to be possessed by the Loa and the Getty. It is seen as if you're
That's what I was
chosen.
asking.
If you're
That's pretty
chosen
cool.
to be ridden, that is, you know, I've seen people be able to drink entire bottles of bourbon and not get drunk. And I mean, and I have literally seen that actually happen. And they were fine when they came out of it. And they downed, and they should have been puking, intoxicated.
I've seen that too. I've actually seen that too in some Native American rituals. So yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's interesting to see it, but it's considered an honor.
That's wild.
Now, you had mentioned the Bloody Mary, so I need to go back to that. Like, is that a voodoo thing or is that a New Orleans thing? Is it, where does that come? So I was totally one of them kids and in the school bathroom, and I'm like, hey, let's go do this, because I'm pulling everybody in, like, because I've been in paranormal ever since I could remember. But is that a voodoo thing? What is that?
She's an
actual person.
That's what I thought. Okay.
She runs a shop over on North Rampart Street in New Orleans.
Oh, okay.
You see her on all the television shows when you have somebody come in to talk about voodoo. It's always Bloody Mary. She is a native New Orleanian.
So we're not talking about the legend of looking in the mirror and saying Bloody Mary and stuff like that. Okay. We're talking about an actual person.
What is she, a priestess? Is that what they call voodoo? Or do you have a priest and a priestess or a practitioner?
Oh, God. I knew I should have done more research. It's a mambo and a...
I've heard of mambo, yes.
Is it Hogan? Don't get me lying. If I'm wrong, correct me. I'm trying to remember. But priestess works, and a lot of people will use that term. But no, they actually use specified terms inside of the voodoo religion.
Gotcha. Right.
Okay, that's what I thought. Jason just said Bloody Mary's from the 16th century England. I thought so, and I was like, so okay. So
no, we're talking about an actual person who's a native New Orleanian. She is as white as I am with blonde hair.
And I think this is when my daughter was in here and distracted me and everything like that.
Right.
So
right.
Yeah. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. So wow, this is just like, there's so much to it. I'm so fascinated by it because I feel like I can connect to it in a lot of ways with what I do, you know, and how it connects to, like, I've always tried to find a way to fit my Catholicism in with my witchcraft. And it's like, wait, there's voodoo. So it kind of, it just fits right for me. Not that I'm a voodoo practitioner. This is probably the most I've ever learned about it.
I would not consider myself a voodoo practitioner, even though it is part of everything I do to think, okay, I need something. I got to go talk to Papa Legba and figure out who else I need to talk to get this done. But I'm not a voodoo practitioner because I'm not a member of that religion. I'm not part of what they do. I'm more of hoodoo
folk magic. Yeah,
Yep.
that's so. You have a degree in folk magic or folklore.
Yes, I do.
So what does that mean? Like, what do you know? You know all kinds of things. Like that's fascinating to me. Like, because I love folklore. Like, there's so much of it. Like, what did you learn?
I learned about how folklore applies to sociology and to psychology and anthropology, and how it actually helped and influenced the development of the human species. That's a large portion of it.
Mm-hmm.
Another part of it is, oh my God, I studied religion. Every religion under the sun, because when you really
Okay.
get down to it, there's no two ways about it. Religion is a type of folklore. And that is the most common thing you study in college, is when they're talking about learning folklore, they're teaching you about all the different religions that have been around since the beginning of time.
Do you have a favorite piece of folklore that you were drawn to when you were learning stuff?
Oh my goodness. You asked me, see, that's the first hard question that I've got.
I have to get one hard one.
I was like, oh no, it was my favorite people. Well, the one that got me into it is the one that absolutely terrified me as a little girl was The Vanishing Hitchhiker. And which piece of the urban legend of you pick up a hitchhiker and then they get in their car and they disappear. It absolutely terrified me. And then when I realized that this story literally exists everywhere in the world and has for generations,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, I have got to learn more about why this is. What part of our psychology, what part of our brain makes everybody terrified of letting somebody in your back seat or in your carriage or in your cart and then they disappear on you? What part of you and me and everybody else is terrified of that happening? I want to know more about that. And
does that, when you get to study that folklore, do they go into that? Like where is the psychological fear? Because I know students in psychology, we've studied like fears a lot. Like there are certain fears that we commonly all hold. You know, most people are scared of spiders. Most people are scared of snakes. It goes back to back in the cave days. I don't know if they talk about that, about survival.
Yes,
Like,
no. And that's
those who ate the bitter berries died. So that's why we don't like bitter berries. You know?
So no, and that is definitely something you talk about when you're studying folklore.
Evolutionary psychology. That's the word I was looking for.
You definitely study that, because folklore. Why do you tell children that the wailing banshee threw her children in the river? Because every mother who's ever had a child has had that moment where that wailing child has wanted to think, maybe if we could just take care of this. And and nobody wants to admit you've had that thought, but you have.
We all have had it. I am going to admit.
But then you have a Llorona that tells you, no, you're going to end up a wailing woman beside the creek if you do something terrible like that. Don't do this. And it's just something to tell you, don't do that, or all of the different boogeyman stories to keep the kids from wandering out in the woods in the middle of the night.
We used to live on the edge of a cornfield, so we came up with, like, the neighbor, actually, well, we didn't come up with it. Our neighbor came up with this myth of the corn cracker. And the corn cracker was this monster that lived in the woods that stole children and made them do crazy, like, things they didn't want to do. Like dishes or something, chores. I don't know. But they, so I told my kids this, so they wouldn't run into the cornfield and get lost. And yeah.
But no, folklore plays into evolutionary psychology. And these stories are as ancient as we are. And one of the things I think is my favorite thing about folklore is that it's constantly being created.
Yeah, it is. It is
not a past tense thing to study folklore. You can sit on Facebook and watch folklore be born. And I mean, Slender Man, for crying out loud.
Seriously, the Slender Man thing, like it got huge.
Yes, it did. Modern day folklore.
Well, I mean, it got to the point actually a person was killed.
Yeah.
Because of it.
Yeah. So I'm going to go here because it's something. It's not that I'm a skeptic, because I've had experiences, but is Bigfoot a folklore?
Okay. My personal take on Bigfoot is, yes, of course he's part of folklore. That is part, he is, period. But is he actually, you're taking a bit and saying folklore is fiction.
No, I'm not. Yeah, no, I'm not. Folklore
But
comes from somewhere.
Bigfoot is fictional.
Yeah.
I think he is definitely part of folklore, but my personal belief, I'm one of those people that believe he's an interdimensional being. So
That's what I think. Yes, that is my
that's
belief as well.
him.
I believe he's an interdimensional being. I do believe that, I guess my belief is he was invoked by the Native American spirits, the indigenous spirits of different lands. I'm not going to just say here in Native America, in America, indigenous spirits of the land, the ones that lived in these woods. He was invoked to protect the forest, to protect, as a protection.
So Jason Darden asked, and with the advent of the internet, so many people can focus on the same energy and create it, question mark? Yes.
That's called the butterfly effect, right?
No,
Or is that
tulpa?
Yep.
a tulpa? That's the word. Yes.
And it's a piece of Hindu and Indian folklore.
Yes.
That says that if you
That was in
believe,
Supernatural too.
yes, it was, and this is a real thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they believe that if enough people focus their idea on a single image or a single thought or a single being, you actually bring that being into existence. And at first, it's confined to acting in the way that it is believed to act, but the more people actually believe in it, the more energy that it is fed,
and it
the
creates
more
its own. Yeah.
then it starts creating its own, and it moves from being a tulpa to being an egregore, which is a sentient being, basically a god.
An elemental.
Yes, an elemental. Yeah,
Yeah.
it becomes something that's flesh and blood and real, that has its own thought process, and it acts independently of what any of us think.
And that is kind of my theory on Bigfoot. I think it is like it's more than just I guess interdimensional would, I don't know if that's the word for it, but it's, to me, that's kind of what it is. It was this tulpa.
Have you read Passport to Mangonia?
I started it. I have not finished it now.
Oh my God, it's such a wonderful book.
Yeah.
But that is one of my go-to Bible.
Thought up Cayenne.
Kanye.
Sorry, Cayenne. I like to call, that's a joke that I do. I call him Cayenne. It's so yeah, like this, it just fascinates me. There's so much our brains can do. If like there's lots of, the butterfly effect theory is similar to that, where you have a group of monkeys here in Indonesia, and then you have a group of monkeys in Africa, and the group of monkeys in Indonesia start using this stick that looks like a hammer to get food out. Simultaneously over here, they start doing the same thing. It's like this collective conscious of things that we have together, which goes into the energy of all things,
right?
Which goes into, like, if we have the power to create these tulpas and to create these things, our collective conscious has the power to heal and answer prayers. And
oh no, absolutely. Look up biocentrism. There's actually a new field of science that is looking into the connection point of consciousness and the material world, and where that connection breaks down and why. And so they're saying that there is a connection, but our modern day science doesn't understand it. So biocentrism is one of the sciences where they're looking at how we know this connects. Let's figure out how.
Yes, the leprechauns are real, Colin.
So Jason asked, but where does the core of that creation or energy come from? Us.
Exactly.
Well, is it God?
See,
Spirit. I call it the Great Spirit. Like,
and then if you really want to get into it and talking about the collective consciousness and creation, every one of us has the spark of God in us. And if you think of a spark as a piece of energy, when you say us and you say God, are you not saying the same thing?
And that's in my yoga practice, and in my yoga sutras, and when I was learning Patanjali and his theory, that's exactly what it is. We are becoming one with the God within, and how we are one. We are God. Like, I know that sounds really egotistical, but
I see it as we're all from one energy.
Yes, all from one energy. That's what I'm saying. We're all from one energy. Yeah.
So, and we're all created from that one energy. That one energy is God. Therefore, we are all God.
That's where it comes in, saying that we are created in the image of
exactly
God.
Mm-hmm.
And but
It's
going
all
back
the
to the energy, I mean, how many times have you and I talked here at work about, I've had cases that started out where somebody just thought that they had a haunting, or like these dolls that end up, I had a case with two dolls that were in a house that had so much negative energy in it. And then all of a sudden, this collected energy just kept building up and building up. And, eventually they started to see things happen. So then they give it an identity.
Yeah.
And once you start giving it the identity, then the thing starts to become self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely that's kind of what poltergeist is. That's
Poltergeist.
exactly what poltergeist is, And
Like-
a lot of people get that.
Yeah.
Do a like scientific study on that, where they actually created a ghost.
They created a poltergeist. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and that's the poltergeist movie there's Hollywood again, but literally that case was looked at by, I can't remember if it was Zaffis, Johnny went to that. I believe so. And then a couple other people. But what it ended up being was that the boy was going through adolescence, and he was throwing so much energy out that it was literally moving a ball or a globe. I'm sorry. It was a globe that it was moving. And,
that's because of the emotion. Emotion is energy, and like are so strong in teen years.
Exactly.
Yeah. And just like what you were saying about creating its own energy, like as a psychic and going into Walmart or Target or anything like that, like, and if I open myself up to where I actually can see things, you can see these creatures, just these, I don't know how to name them. There is a name, there's multiple different names for them, but like in the corners of the rooms, just sucking the energy out of people. Just like they're feeding off of like the energy that's been created there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know if there's any other psychics in the chat. Like, if you ever seen anything like that when you've gone into Walmart.
Oh, we have somebody said, "Yep, creatures of Walmart."
Creatures of Walmart. It is, and I use Walmart as an example because everybody knows you walk into Walmart, you have this, you feel the energy. You walk into Target, it's a completely different energy.
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
it is. It's a different energy. Although they're becoming similar now. I think as I've noticed, like the energies are becoming similar. But
there's no Target near here, so I haven't been in years.
You're not allowed in Walmart anymore? What? I need the story.
Yeah, well, they thought. I was yelling at Colin, and I went a couple nights ago.
What did you do?
When we went to pick up the products for here, the sodas and everything. And
Grevelings. Yes, Jay, Grevelings.
Walked away from me, and I started screaming, Colin, like that. And the woman's like looking at us. We weren't told we couldn't come back, but she gave us the look like, either grow up or
get out.
And,
imagine that.
But and he was like the next aisle over, and it was hilarious. But
you rode me around Walmart in a cart.
True too.
During the bash.
It's not a touchscreen.
What's that?
Is this not a touchscreen?
Yeah. Are you looking at?
Because Colin had a question here a little bit ago. Says, my question is to y'all is how often do you think paranormal activity at numerous places could be from a previous case that followed you everywhere? We've had that with our team happen multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
I think we all have had that happen.
Yes.
I've definitely had things follow me home. There was one time we had a spirit box session where we had a little girl come through at one of the cemeteries we were in New Orleans. And then I started feeling sick, and I actually felt sick the next day enough that I stayed home from work. And I was sleeping on the couch after Cedric had already left to go take his tours. I actually heard that same voice that we had heard over the spirit box go, Mommy.
Yeah.
And that immediately followed by me waking up. Okay, now I know why I'm sick, and we had to cleanse the house. And
I had that happen after I was at Moundsville one time.
I just was having issues when I came back from Moundsville, and you told me that. Tell me, and you told me that story. Tell that story. That's what I was going to say.
Well, I mean, there's a couple different stories from Moundsville that I've had happen. But one time, I was down in the Sugar Shack and was taking pictures, stuff like that. Anyway, what had happened is we were having a Paracon there, and they were allowing us to go over and investigate or walk through whatever we wanted to do. And I wanted to see the Sugar Shack. This was, actually, I wanted to take some people there, and I took two of the girls that was on my team at the time. And when you go into the Sugar Shack, it's a very small.
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at Susan. She said, "Behave." In Walmart, people don't even wear pants.
I mean, it's fair.
But yeah, no, I walked down like to go into the Sugar Shack. It's a very narrow hallway, and as you're going into it, it gets darker and darker and darker. And I had ended up charging some of my equipment, putting new batteries in it. I mean, just handheld stuff. And within minutes, I started losing, like everything died on me. And I'm asking questions. I'm trying to get, some kind of response. And they have pillars down there because that's literally the basement of the prison. And anyway, I'd smacked on the wall and stuff and said, "Can you make the noise back?" Nothing happened. "What's up, James Ash?" And so what ended up happening was the only thing that I had left for light, because the girls were going to leave me, was my phone, which was not, I mean, it was, 80% probably when I went in there, and I looked down because you get that notification at 15% left. And I was like, how did this happen? So I hurried up and took a couple pictures. And as I'm leaving, I hear something smack the wall beside me. And then I heard scuffling behind me, like something rushed up on me. And I'm not going to lie, I took off because it was in the dark. I couldn't see. And get back to the hotel that night. And I sure enough got a picture of something in there. And went home, and we had set up for a night investigation like a couple months later, but we did it that weekend. And this thing was, it was in that dream / waking up state. This thing was visiting and telling me, "Don't ever come back. You come back, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do," and I dealt with that for 2 or 3 weeks, probably something like that. And then I finally just kind of got mad, and this was after multiple cleansings and stuff too. So I finally went and had other people do a cleansing over me, and that seemed to get rid of it, until days before, and it visited again. And so my main thing was I have to go confront this, and that's what I did. And then another time I came back, we were in a rush getting out of there. There was a situation where I had to get somebody back to the hotel room. And so we didn't do any proper cleansing afterwards. And anyway, I ended up going home, and I was snapping my kids' heads off. I mean, for 2 or 3 days.
I've done that too.
Sick. I felt nasty. And when you're in these places like that and you're subjected to the negative energy, that's what a paranormal kind of hangover is. People think, well, it's because of lack of sleep. Well, it's because of that, and the fact that you're in negative energy that's like, vampires. They're sucking that energy from you. And I ended up having to go to, my dad's wife at the time, her brother was a cardinal in the Catholic Church. And I went over there to visit and was giving him kind of a rundown of exactly, how I felt. And he did, I guess I would say, an exorcism, but it was not quite like, what I went through or what we do today. But it definitely did the trick. And but you could manifest that even worse if you don't take care of it and you start talking to it and you start, I've had people that's tried to think they could actually fight these things, physically. And it's like,
I've
You
seen
know,
people
you're
like
just
that.
giving it more energy because you're throwing your anger
Yeah.
at it, you know, and it's just feeding it. So yeah, but Moundsville was a rough,
Yeah.
you know, you got to just be able to, you know, you got to do your proper cleansing afterwards
Absolutely.
and stuff like that, because when you don't do that, and sometimes you still bring it home. I mean, you
Yeah.
can't get out of it, but
Yeah, you can't help
you
it
know,
sometimes. Because I did
that's part.
cleansing before and after and throughout the whole thing. And
Yeah.
yeah, Jason here says that he you know, in his opinion, he feels like it does attach to you and can follow you home, but it doesn't stay with you. He feels like it kind of gets yanked back to like where they were stuck, like where they were at. What are your guys' thoughts on that one?
I think that's possible.
Silence.
I think
Yeah.
it's possible to reattach to an item or a person as well. That so if something, but there would have to be some kind of energetic link that gave you
Yeah.
a reason for them to be able to latch onto you and be able to stay latched onto you. If there's not an energetic link of some sort, and it could be that you opened yourself up. Says use my body to talk to communicate through the spirit box. Okay, great. Offer that energetic link. Now they're connected to you. And hey, Pam.
Hi, Pam.
But
yeah, I think that energetic link. There needs to be a link.
otherwise,
They're
they're going to get yanked back.
Yeah, well, I mean, and my thoughts on that is that energy doesn't dissipate, and um, there's no boundaries, in my opinion, when it comes to that. But if there is attachments to certain objects, you know, and that's kind of what you're saying, you know,
Yeah.
and yeah, definitely. But you know, I would think that if you have an attachment that came from, you know, such as Bob over here,
Yep.
you know, that that they, even if they're feeding off your energy, I think eventually they're going to kind of die out anyway. And that goes back to, I literally had a guy one time that I would investigate with down in Fredericksburg that would go in a day before, if we were doing like, you know, not a private case, but there's like Chatham Manor and stuff like that down there, that would go in and he would literally play act out like whatever, you know, period, you know, like Chatham Manor obviously was like a hospital during the the war in Fredericksburg. And a woman died in there and stuff like that. So he would dress up in period clothing and go in there, and like that, he felt he thinks that haunted places such like Penhurst can literally lose their energy after a while. So he would go in and do that, and then he would come in and put down like what do they call it? Shoot, when you go in like the boxes, EMF pumps.
Yeah.
And he would go in and put all over places and stuff to try to get the energy built up. So I mean, is that because the attachment is lifted, or I mean, then you can get into, you know, if something's intelligent or not intelligent, you know, stuff like that. Is loop, is it something that's just in that, you know, for that vicinity or whatnot? But I think that it's very good possibility that something could attach. But if it's attached before it's attached to you to an object, I think, yeah, it's going to get yanked back to that, because that's what, you know, you could get into. The point is, okay, if it's a doll like this, well, then what if you have a doll in your house? Can it attach to that? Is it the object, or is it the actual event that happened at that certain place, like Gettysburg?
Right.
You know, could a soldier go home with you? But obviously, this is where the event happened. So is it going to come back here, or have to come back here to continue? I guess is what I'm saying. Or does that energy kind of, it never dissipates, but it might change form and just kind of go elsewhere, you know? And that's why I think science and, you know, religion and science and paranormal all need to kind of work together, you know? And a lot of people have an issue with that, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think there's so many theories. There's so many like what ifs, and this is so many opinions, and I don't say any of them are wrong. Like, you know, there's not a lot of science, you know.
Yeah, no, there
At least
really is.
solid science.
Yeah, no.
To it. So
Well,
it is
it's
up
viewed.
for interpretation.
Yeah, no, and it's viewed in such a way that science is discouraged from looking into these things. And when all of these people are experiencing things, they have been observed. It makes no sense not to try to replicate and figure out what it is that we're observing.
Yeah.
And it's literally prejudiced by the science community that keeps them from researching this kind of.
Well, aren't we scientists investigating?
In a sense.
Yeah.
In a
We just
sense,
don't have random control trials.
which is something that we have talked about. I've actually talked to people in
I love it. Everybody's saying hello to everybody in the chat. That is just
that's
I love
really
the community. I love it. It just makes me so happy. Sorry. No, I'm energy vampire off of.
And yeah, I mean, all of our instruments, man, I was having this conversation with a gentleman the other day that everything that we use is either vibration, it's built on the electromagnetic field or vibration frequency. I mean, there's not anything else that I know that exists out there. There may be, but
I got something to show you. Oh.
All of that, our equipment.
Yep, absolutely.
And so
this is the energy stick. So this is what I do when people say, what is Reiki? I don't know what Reiki is. What do you mean by energy? So it's only me here right now. So, but you can do it with anybody. If someone grabs this end, if I grab this end, it connects the circuit and it makes the lights go off. But I could do it with someone else. But I could do a whole circle of people. And I have this in my hand and one person holds this and then everybody goes around the circle. And it's not until those last two people connect hands that this will light up. That's the energy within us. It's kind of like those touch lamps, that energy within us. Like
well, it's just like getting electrocuted. If you have somebody getting electrocuted and you run up and try to pull them off and grab them, you get electrocuted as well.
Yep. That could continue the circuit.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's like science has proven. Science doesn't prove anything. I'm not going to say that word because they really don't.
She just saw it. It's funny.
Why am I always related like something with a pixie? But because I really am a fairy. I'm a changeling. Anyway,
I've said the same thing over time. Is there's no way
I have to be a changeling. They had to change me at birth.
No way. No way I came from that family. None.
No way. I even got the ears. See?
Mine are pointed too.
Yes. I totally forget what I was saying before.
Yeah, no. I don't know where we were.
No, literally, my ex-wife had a elf ear, like hers was pointed, and Trevor's, he's got it kind of, sort of, but
cool.
But definitely, man, hers was like she would lift it up and show you, man. I mean, it was like literally a point, and that was pretty wild. But
that's pretty cool. Make it go off again, Stacey.
Pixie dust, that's what it turns into, right? Oh, I didn't do the sound.
I wonder if we could use this in investigating somehow.
I would say that you could try.
What if
I hold it on one end and I say touch the other end?
Yeah. See if you can connect the circuit.
Andy's a gnome. I love it.
That's right.
The pixie and the gnome. That's what Andy and I are, the pixie and the gnome. If you see a little green leprechaun at Ghost City, it's just me.
That's about right for Colin. He is a little green leprechaun. That's true.
Is pixie dust a cremated pixie?
I always heard that was their movement.
Pixie dust is their magic.
Yeah. Okay. So
Sorry.
we have gotten off topic severely.
Yeah, severely, and it's 10 o'clock. So what else do we have to talk about? Like, do you have more for us? I don't know if I have any more questions because, like, I think my brain has gone out the window. I've been up since 5:30.
No, I covered the things I wanted to cover with y'all and told the
Same,
stories
Jay.
that I wanted to cover.
Okay. And so, is there anything else that you want to bring up and we want to cover? Is there any other questions that you have, Andy?
Well, I was just going to say that, Evie and I work together every day and we have these talks, and I have learned quite a bit from her, and I'm very blessed to have her as my second, my right hand person. You know what I'm saying? Really. But, the thing is, it's pretty wild to just be around people that come from all walks of life and practice all kinds of things and stuff like that. And the biggest thing that I would hope that we can put out there today is that, we're talking about voodoo, we've talked about Christianity, we've talked about paganism, and you see the common thread with that. And I hope what people can take away from here is that, we can all respect what others do and should try to definitely learn about things like that,
Open your mind. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Open your mind. Be more flexible with thoughts and beliefs.
yeah, you don't have to.
You don't have to adopt them.
Exactly.
And Susan, it made me miss home too.
Yeah, Susan says, thank you, Evie. It made me miss home. So
it looks like I might have won this situation. Like I might have won this one.
Andy, the question is, can you write a school note?
No, I was actually.
I can. Need the school note, Colin? Let me know.
I was pushing that subject a little earlier with them, and actually they were telling me that they couldn't miss school. They were like, "No, I'm on a schedule." That's exactly what one of them said. I'm on a schedule.
Okay.
And that's cool to hear that. But yeah, I'm.
Dude, that needs a school. You need a work note. I could send you one.
Right.
Evie, I just want to thank you. I want to reiterate what Andy said. Like, this community, like, I think when I first met you, there was like instant connection. Like, I just loved you to death, and our energies just clicked. And I think also just our intellectual energies as well. I love talking to you and chatting to you about these things. This is what it's about. This is why we started this podcast, is so people can see other different views and other things. And, obviously all three of us have completely different belief systems, but they're all kind of intertwined and the same. And we just call them different things. So yeah. I was reading what Jason said. Sorry, I got distracted. Thank you all. Susan and I went to Kicking Cadillacs and the bartender swore it wasn't haunted. No, I've told you about that. No, we're going to talk about it. That's a whole nother story, Jason. I've actually talked to them about their haunted ghosts.
Right.
Sorry.
We almost got through the whole day without doing that.
I know. Right at the end. So I want to pitch a little bit about Evie's artwork. How close are you to any of her pieces of artwork right now?
I could probably walk over and grab one.
Okay.
I'll go grab one.
You go grab a one or two. I just want to show your work. Thank you, Colin. You rock as well. You did a lot of great work in the store today. It looks wonderful. I say the store like it's my store. Like, I'm part of it. I'm not even employed there. I'm just like, come to readings once a month. I guess I am. I'm a contractor, right? Like,
you're a vendor.
I'm a vendor.
Yep.
But I feel like very connected to the store. I love that piece. That is Evie's artwork. She does many different works and she uses different mediums. Her stuff is all shown at Ghost City Tours in Gettysburg.
Or you,
For those of you who haven't been out, you need to go out and check it out. Andy, you want to kind of give a plug on Ghost City?
what's that? I'm sorry.
Do you want to give a plug on Ghost City?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is with Ghost City, as you sitting here, you know, all three of us work here at times. I mean, I manage, but Evie is pretty much my assistant manager. And then you come in and, you know, do your readings and stuff like that.
You have a good boss. I don't want that job.
I'm joking. It was a joke.
And, the coolest thing is that, you know, Colin is saying that, you know, we are family. And you know, when you come into Ghost City, I can tell you that, you know, you're treated like family. And, you know, we try to definitely, you know, make sure that you're, you know, taken care of one-on-one. And we want to hear your stories and stuff. And that's kind of with, you know, Ghost City, it kind of follows just like the podcast here. You know, all of us that work here, we want to, you know, make it a place that people feel comfortable to come in here into and talk about paranormal, talk about religions, talk about voodoo, talk about, you know, whatever. And that's what makes it an interesting place to be. So it's, you don't get too many jobs that you love. You know what I'm saying? And
true that.
And this is one of them that I can say that I look forward to coming into a lot of times. But yeah, if you do come, Jason or Jay, I said he's seen that he was coming to Gettysburg. Definitely come into Ghost City. We're on the square. If you know where the Lincoln statue is on the square, we're literally walk out our front door right to that. And we got some exciting stuff coming up next week here.
Oh yeah,
that's kind of internal, but we'll leave it at that and talk about it when the time's right. But we do have Ernie Atwell this Saturday. And he's going to be bringing his new book in here, which I'm excited to check out. And
I have it.
Yep. And yeah, Jason, I do. Well,
there's tours every day, right?
There is tours every day. We are closed as the retail side of it. We're closed on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, but I can tell you that that's going to change. We'll be open 7 days a week. And even if I'm not in the actual store, I can promise you that I'm still doing something by the end of the day when it comes to running the store.
He's always working. Always.
But yeah, we're definitely a one-of-a-kind place, I think, in Gettysburg. And I'm not saying that to plug us like we're the best. I'm just saying that we give a little bit of a different vibe, I think, than the other places do, because we accept so many different things. And sure, it's about Gettysburg, but I think you have people that have ghost tours here in town, and that's what they're all about, is ghost, paranormal. When our owner and myself as well, and I'm sure the rest of us, we love the history side of it, and also the showing such respect and stuff for the what happened here, you know. And
it's a lot about the history.
Yep, and Colin and Cedric, they fall right into it. And
only tour I've taken is Cedric's. I haven't taken any others. I did enjoy Cedric's tour a lot. Colin, I'm gonna have to go on your tour next.
But yeah, guys, you know, come in and see us. Definitely take a tour, and you can come back. You know, like you're saying, if you come back and take Colin's tour, it'll be a totally different tour. And that's what's cool about it. They may tell you some of the same history, but you're going to get a little bit of different paranormal story.
They all put their own flair into it.
Exactly. And that's what's cool about Ghost City, that they give you the, you know, they pride themselves on that they give you the script and here's what you need to say. But after that, you're on your own. It's just like, I wish Dave would have come in here when he got done with his tour, you know?
Yeah.
When the dresses up in a white suit, but then it has blood all over
bullet holes.
And bullet holes. And people seem to love it, you know?
Yeah, no, they absolutely adore it.
You know, and that's the thing. And yeah, Colin's pants, work pants.
Yeah.
But yeah, and definitely we're having you back on May 10th.
Yes, I am back on May 10th.
Yeah.
Doing readings and Reiki this time. I'm doing Reiki as well there. So there's you who have been asking for Reiki. Come out on May 10th. I'll be there all day, open to close pretty much. So
Hey,
and we open at 1, right? Or 2?
No, noon.
Noon. Okay. Why am I all off? I don't know. It's late. I've been up since 5:30.
Yeah, I feel you.
So yes. So without, I guess, if no one has any more questions, and
one thing to Jay real fast. He said, I'll have to take another paranormal investigation while I'm there. Hopefully we will be offering those in the near future.
That's it. We're working on that to where you can come in, and
if not, we have some new places to recommend for you to investigate, even if it's not with us.
Right. Yep. Thank you, Susan, for coming on too.
Started to go Reiki on someone. It was like, what? No, I completely explained what it is before it. I think that's what you're asking. If anybody's like, "Whoa, what's going on?" I always completely explain what Reiki is, and like what possibly they're going to feel and stuff like that. So, but yeah, I guess I have. I've had some pretty intense experiences of people on my table. What are you laughing about?
I'm aware you've had some fairly intense experiences with people
or wanting to, is what we were just saying. I just said it under my breath about the penis Reiki. Okay, that's yeah. But
did you think?
Yeah, where's Brandon? He didn't show up. I was hoping we get through one episode without mentioning that.
Right. That is, we do want to say inside joke, guys, but she really didn't. It was just, maybe the possibility of.
I didn't hear about that. Yeah. Some of you know the story. Some of you do not. Right. I'm not telling the story.
And we'll leave it at that. Yeah.
Tweet. Anyway, thank you all for watching. We appreciate you. We appreciate everything that you do and watching us. Please go over to all of our pages, and hopefully soon Facebook will I was going to say a bad word, but fix itself and we can go live on our actual page. But we'll see. That's how we advertise for it.
And everybody needs to come in. Ones that enjoy it, you need to Karen, she jumps in there.
Taryn, she always shows up right at the end. I love you, Taryn.
Yes, we do. I've been thinking about Taryn quite a bit.
Yes.
Becoming Enchanted.
Come to Gettysburg soon.
Yep. Becoming Enchanted. We do have our own Facebook page now. So definitely
like and
tap into that. Taryn, we love you. And all the best love and light and positive vibes that definitely put out. And I actually walked over and looked at your brick yesterday because they haven't done a very good job at cleaning some out here. And hers was nice and clean. So I do check on that. You can ask.
We go out there with a toothbrush.
I do. I walk out there and look at it. I do to make sure. But yeah, so, and definitely in our thoughts and stuff, we all go through things, and that's what makes true. People talk about para-unity and para-family, but I do believe in para-family. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Para-family.
Definitely been thinking of you, Taryn. And I know we're going to see you. I just talked to Hillary and Gus the other day. She said you were coming up. We got some exciting things coming up with Hillary and Gus next week. So looking forward to that. And
stay tuned for that.
Yeah, and they're the ones that own the inn on Lincoln Square, guys. And if you ever come to stay, I would recommend them. You pay a little bit extra outside.
Not too bad.
It's not even that much more.
Yeah, it's like just a few dollars more to get a historical place that was here during the battle. And so if you're a paranormal junkie, Taryn has got one hell of a EVP from the yeah, she's got an EVP from there that is just incredible.
Mhm.
And you know, we definitely you know, I want to definitely say, and you know, guys, if there's anybody out there, I did want to plug this, sorry. If you are a person that makes, you know, some paranormal related stuff, or if you have something, if you have a hobby or you're a crafter or something like that, definitely hit me up, because we are looking to do some consignment stuff in here. There is no charge for the shelf space, and we're right on the square. So yeah, I know about the basement, Taryn. I hear about that. But definitely I'm looking for people to put some of their stuff in here. I want to network with I don't want to say smaller people, but the ones that maybe don't have things. I don't want to change
Artisans. Yeah.
You know, I want to do artisans and stuff like that. I can't say that I can take everything, but you know, definitely give me a shout, and you can get me at Andy@GhostCityTours.com. It's that simple. And you know, I'm looking very, very forward to, you know, Stacy's got some of her stuff in here. Evie's got her paintings. Both of them do really well.
Yeah.
And you know, I'd rather see it go in your pocket than some chain store somewhere, you know, like, you know, Amazon or something like that. Not saying anything bad about them, but
Well, we all love Amazon. And, yeah.
well, exactly. But I'm saying, if you know, I would really like to see, you know, dream catchers, you know.
That would be cool. Let's do, yeah.
I would definitely put them in here, man. I definitely would. And you know, there's a lot of neat things that we got going on, and that's kind of even what our owner wants to do. You know, he wants to support the local community, which is awesome. And I feel the same. If you have a paranormal team, or you have something like if you're a documentarian or you're an author, I would love to have your team or yourself come in here and set up one weekend, do a meet and greet with people. You know, we don't pay anything to do that because we just can't. But the thing is, we're right on the square, and I can tell you that I mean, it is not abnormal to have probably 200 to 300 people on a really good summer, you know, season day to come walking through our door and back out. And, you know, and we do advertise you both nationally and locally, and put you in Destination Gettysburg. And so, I mean, if nothing else, it gets you that little promo out there, you know, and you get to come visit Gettysburg, you know.
And you get to hang out in the store with you guys. Like when I come, at least when I do reads, like I don't know, I don't even feel like I'm working. I feel like I'm just there, like hanging out. Like it's fun. It's family.
Need to get the peaches here sometime there, Taryn.
Yes.
You
definitely.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, I appreciate you, Evie. Thank you for coming on. Thank you all for watching. And please, everybody, make sure you fill your cup first. You can't pour from an empty cup. You have to make sure yours is full. So self-care, take care of yourself. Love and light, everyone. You guys have a wonderful night. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.